Everybody, and welcome back to Higher Density Living. Listen, if you like our stuff, don't post it as a post. Share it as something in your story.
100%.
So if you're on Spotify or Apple, share.
YouTube, share.
You're like, oh, that was an interesting tidbit about these two idiots speaking. Put that in your story.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like on Spotify, I do it all the time. You could put just click on the share, hit Instagram and Snapchat or Twitter, and it'll just post it right on, like in 2 seconds.
Okay, cool.
That helps us out tremendously. It's the one thing we ask of you. We don't ask anything from anybody.
No,
you can donate. We are a 501c3.
Yeah, go for it. And you know what's cool? It helps run things, but why is sharing such a fucking pain in the ass?
And we're not wearing them today. I got a weird shirt, and you got a Sherwin-Williams painting shirt.
Well, first of all, you spend so much money on paint.
You told me how much you spent. I didn't believe you.
I looked at the guy, I was like,
you should have got a shirt.
He gave me 4.
Bro, why are you just like t-shirt heaven here lately?
I have no idea.
I gave you a bunch of HDL shirts. I just gave you 2 NASA shirts.
I love fresh.
And you got 4 Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah, and you got to be a contractor to get these.
That's so cool.
I think is there a big logo on the back?
Oh yeah. Okay. You're gonna wear that around all the time?
I might. Paint the world.
I love it. So today I want us to talk about after people buy their alien t-shirts on our website, higherdensityliving.com. There's a shop on there, you guys. There's 120 alien shirts. I keep making more and more. I'm going nuts.
I like them.
I'm going nuts. So Mel's hole. Speaking of going nuts. Hole, yeah.
Come on.
Mel's hole, bro. This is really good shit. Are you ready?
Somebody come up with something better?
Well, that's what they called it. And there's a reason. So Ellensburg, Washington, which I'm from there. So Ellensburg is kind of the eastern side of the state. It's kind of almost looks like here.
Where you headed, son?
Ellensburg.
Mel's hole.
Yeah, Mel's hole, yeah. So Washington State, picture this, high desert, kind of, not desert, but like high country, pine trees, dirt. All of a sudden, there's a place that has a bottomless hole in it. Like in the middle of the ground.
Like a sinkhole?
Yeah.
Like a cavity opened up.
It's a big hole, and we're going to get into this.
Was it always there? I have questions.
We're going to answer all those.
This is fresh to me. This is fresh news.
Coast to Coast AM, which was especially in the 90s, early 2000s.
Art Bell. Art Bell.
Art Bell was the man.
Good mustache.
If you wanted to have a conversation about extraterrestrials, UFOs, spirits walking around your house, whatever type of conversation you wanted to have, you could have it on Coast to Coast AM. And for truckers that were out there, they would listen to this all night I used to listen to this as a kid on the AM. I bought this expensive AM radio so I could listen to this, and I would stay up at night and get no sleep because it didn't come on in Washington State when I was a kid, but it would scare me sometimes, the stuff that he would have on there.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I listened to, I would go to bed listening to Art Bell every night. So this was like a wild, so I'm made for this shit. So Mel's hole is like, this is like, so.
It's bread and honey for you.
Yeah, so what happened was February 21st, 1997.
Yeah.
Mel Waters, the guy, but this is the name Mel. So Mel Waters called into Coast to Coast with Art Bell.
So it's a guy's hole.
To share about a pit that was on his property. Now you think, okay, whatever, Jason, but the story gets so interesting.
Well, that's like
so interesting.
Just answer me one thing because I'm curious right now before curiosity kills the cat. Was the hole always there?
Yes, he discovered it.
So he bought the property and then found the hole.
His wife, they got a divorce, all kinds of stuff. He was leasing it to his wife, but there's hours and hours on YouTube. You could just type in Mel's hole or type in Mel Waters, and you can hear the old conversations on Coast to Coast. And he goes into, so this lasts for years. And then it's like every few years he calls into Coast to Coast and gives an update of crazy shit going on.
Shit's happening in the hole.
Well, not just in the hole, but
around the hole.
It's military gets involved.
Get the hell out of here.
Resurrections.
Wait a minute. Because the hole in this guy's on this guy's property.
Okay, so he calls into Coast to Coast.
I can't even process this.
So I know, isn't this great? He calls into Coast to Coast. he shares that there's a hole. In the sharing, he also talks about people were dumping trash in the hole because that's just, unconscious people
so
do.
Deep.
And it never got filled up. None of the animals would go near there. You never saw an animal by the hole at all. Birds wouldn't fly near it. They wouldn't land over near it. If he tried to take his dog to the hole, and he would like push his dog, and his dog would like back away. So another neighbor one of the neighbors was just chunking trash, in the hole, had a dog that died, and he threw the dog in the hole, with the trash or what, which is sad. You think you should bury it or whatever.
What year was this?
This is the 90s, and you're farmer country type.
You're in Washington.
Which I'm not saying anything against that. I was country farmer guy.
What are you going to do? Keep the
you're a
corpse
farmer
on
now.
Property?
Yeah. So, maybe if it's just a cattle dog or something.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, saw the dog running around with the collar on.
Bullshit.
But there's more to the story.
No,
That's just one part of it.
Hold on. So his neighbor is just like a prolific trash dumper.
Well, they all saw the dog.
Hold on a second.
All the neighbors saw it.
So all the neighbors were involved.
All the neighbors knew that the dog had died.
But this guy.
And then they saw the dog after it had died.
So the one who's always dumping trash is like, well, I might as well throw the body.
A lot of the neighbors were dumping trash in there.
Okay, and so he's like, well, I might as well just throw my dog in the endless pit.
Yeah, exactly.
But it never fills up.
Because they didn't think of it to be anything but just a garbage pit.
And the neighbors knew he chucks the dog in there.
Yeah.
That is dead.
Yes.
And then all of these neighbors see this dog next day collar on running around.
Yeah.
Same dog.
But it ignores its owner.
In the endless pit.
Yeah, it pops out of the endless pit, resurrected, ignores the owner, and just running around.
Is this hole still here?
Yeah.
We're going.
Go there. Yeah. No, the story
I'm telling
gets
you,
so much better, bro.
I'm so jazzed right now. We're going.
This is like, you're going to be shocked at this. So Mel Waters also goes into detail about what is going on with the pit and how deep it is. So he takes, he was a fisherman. So he takes rolls and rolls of big monofilament and starts running it down there. He takes one whole roll. So one roll is like 2,500 feet or something.
Farmer ingenuity.
Yeah, and he puts a big magnet on there or whatever, and then runs it down there. He runs through one reel. He goes through another reel, goes through another reel. He did 80,000 feet. So how far does it go to the core? I mean, this would be the largest hole in the world if it's 80. If this story is true, 80,000 feet is how far?
So we got 5,284 feet, right? 5,284 in a mile, right? So let's do this. It's 15 miles down.
Yeah. So
well, hold on. Wait a minute. How deep is the Earth's crust? I know it's really deep, but I'm interested.
Well, he still didn't even hit the bottom at 80. He just ran out of. He had like 4 big things of fishing line.
All right. So same here. What, 25 miles? Yeah. What? He has a fishing line. I'm trying to understand this here for a second. And he's just dropping it.
He just keeps putting.
So he's 18 miles deep, almost down to the hot part of the Earth.
Yeah.
Is there a temperature difference by this hole? Is vegetation different? Is it warm air that comes up?
The vegetation wasn't growing around it. And there was like brick around it, like weird, like ancient brick. Maybe somebody had made the ancient brick or something. This is where it gets interesting. And it's going to be even more. So this goes on the radio, right? He talks about this, shares all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing he knows, he's going to drive to his property, and he's not allowed on his property. There's a gate and tons of military vehicles.
This is post talking about it on the radio show.
Yeah, of course, because why would the government not be listening to Coast to Coast AM?
Yeah, it's best thing.
Yeah, it gives them all the info. And so a guy, he goes out there, he's angry, he's like, I want to get on my property. The guy's like, no, you can't. And then another older guy comes out, like black suit looking guy comes out and tells him, if you persist on trying to get on your property, we're going to say that we found a drug lab here.
Wait, he tells him?
Yeah, this
exactly what
government guys. Yeah. So he's like, we'll just tell the world.
In the 90s? Sounds about right.
So the cool part about what happened, and this is a coincidence that's kind of neat, The local TV station had listened to Coast to Coast. Somebody had listened to Coast to Coast. So at the same time that he was heading out to his property with all the military stuff, the television company went out there and saw all the military. So you had a television crew confirm that there was military there. And there was tracks and all that stuff too. So with the big heavy, they brought tons of heavy equipment and all that stuff for check out this hole. You know what I mean? Whether they're just checking it out or who knows, whatever. But there was military there. They did kick him off. They ended up paying him $250,000 a month to
stay on his property?
For the government to stay on his property, and he has to move outside of the country. And he can't talk about this ever again. So he moves to Australia.
With
Art Bell, $250,000
a month in the 90s.
In the 90s. Art Bell doesn't hear from him for 2 more years. Then he calls. He decided, dumb, but whatever. Mel, he decides to come back to the United States.
Okay.
And he wants his property back. Well, the government's not going to, they don't cut deals like that.
Hooked.
He's surprised that I'm surprised they could have just thrown him into the hole.
He's a hole addict. No, then he would have came back with his dog's collar on.
So he goes, and this is a crazy story. He's going to help like a cousin. I'm having to do this from memory. So he's going to help like a cousin or something like that move from Tacoma, Washington to Olympia, Washington, which I lived around there.
Sure, yeah.
So that's like a 45-minute drive. And he's going to help him move. So he's like, I'm here, I'm back, I'll help you move, whatever. I'm trying to get my property back. So he gets in a U-Haul, goes to head out, and then he's like, don't come try to pick me up after I drop the U-Haul off. I'll just take a bus back. So he goes to the bus station.
Cousin?
The Greyhound. No, Mel Waters.
Mel's taking the bus back.
So he's going to take the bus back to get to his vehicle.
Otherwise, you got to pay double mileage on the U-Haul.
Yeah. So he goes to the bus place. The bus place tells him, he said it's kind of weird, awkward, but the bus place tells him, hey, we're broke down. We don't have the bus. We do have a special van that you can ride in that will take you.
Okay.
So he hops in this van. Next thing you know, I think it's like 14 days later, 7 days later, don't quote me on 7 or 14.
Okay.
He wakes up in San Francisco. A lot of his top teeth are taken out. He's bloodied and bruised. His ID's gone, wallet gone, everything. And he's just laying in a gutter in San Francisco. Doesn't remember. And he has IV marks and stuff like that.
Shut the fuck up.
Doesn't remember. And he's saying this on Art Bell.
So they told him not to come back to the U.S.
And he comes back, and this is what happens to him. So whether they scared him or what
didn't they say, we're going to say we found like a drug lab here? Mm-hmm. Meth users, losing teeth, needle marks, all that good stuff, and you throw them in a gutter?
Right.
Perfect psyop, baby. Yeah. Okay.
So he also checks his bank account.
Empty.
Yeah.
I love it. You got to love the government.
So he was getting $250,000. He was saving all this money. Yep. He was also doing research and helping out Australia. He was giving a lot of the money to a research. He was like researching, I don't remember what it was, but it was something for nature, like in a good way. Mm-hmm. And he was donating a lot of money to that and helping, so he was doing some good things. So Mel Waters, don't hear from him again. That's the last thing you heard. He's out of his property, out of everything, no life. Calls years later, again, gets out of the blue, calls Art Bell years later, tells him this. Hey, since the last episode, an Indian tribe, I think it was Navajo, don't quote me on that, Apache, Navajo or something, said, we have one of these holes too.
Bullshit.
And we want you to come see it.
Wait a minute. So Mel doesn't call. The tribe calls.
Calls Mel. They get a hold of Mel. They find him. They call him.
Oh, so the tribe calls Mel.
And yes, and the tribe
and then
says
Mel calls into Coast to Coast.
Yes, but there is, I think this was in Arizona, I'm not for sure, but there is a Spanish descent group of people that came from Spain off this certain area that were sheep herders and moved to this certain part in Arizona.
Okay.
And have like this little area in Arizona where it's all sheep herding.
Probably Apache.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And we could look it up, but it doesn't matter. So they go, the hole's not on the reservation. It's on this other like public access land where they're doing their sheep.
So it's on BLM.
Yeah. But the sheep are on there too from these people. So they all go to this hole, right? So Mel sees the hole. There's a whole story. Like I said, he has hours and hours of conversation on this, because Art Bell, how he's so great at asking questions.
So there's 2 holes now.
There's 2 holes.
So he's not allowed back on his property.
Right. Yeah.
So now he's checking out a new hole in Arizona.
Yeah.
on government lands
And this gets crazy.
that the
Are you
Apache
ready?
tribe knows about,
Yes.
informs Mel.
Yes.
Mel calls in Coast to Coast saying he's having this experience with the tribes in Arizona.
Yep. And somebody in the tribe confirmed this.
Okay.
So there's also tribal leaders in Washington State confirmed about this hole that Native Americans talked about, Mel's Hole, too, a long time ago, and that there's like dark spirit, stuff like that, whatever. So they go to this hole. One of the guys volunteers to go in it.
Bullshit.
That's with him.
Bullshit.
They say no.
Yeah, dude.
Don't go in it.
You got to be. God,
But-
that looks like a sound idea.
But they have sheep all around him. So they're like, let's lure a sheep down in the hole and then kind of see what goes on. So these are sheep herders and stuff. Yeah. Well, the sheep is like freaking the fuck out.
Yeah,
like,
no.
like animals don't want to get near these holes. And whether they're alien portals or whatever, I don't know. And we'll get into that. So they take the sheep. This is the crazy story. You ready?
Yeah.
They take the sheep. They lure it down into the hole. Now it's moving and bucking and everything.
Wait.
And then it finally stops.
Sure.
And it died.
What?
The sheep died.
On the string or the rope.
Well, they pull the rope up and the sheep didn't just die.
Got its head cut off.
It has a big monster like cyst
No, stop.
on the side of it.
So this thing starts like its body is rotting.
Well, not rotting. It has like, like those cancerous cysts that kind
So
of
it's
come
got
way out.
open wounds?
Yeah, it's got like, it's got this big like bubble coming out of its
Like
body.
a tumored looking thing.
So the guys like, they have a table right near like a picnic table. So the sheep farmer's like, well, let me cut this open, see what this is. Because he cuts sheep up all the time. This is like a thing. They butcher sheep, all that.
Farmers, dude, yeah.
So he opens it up, and guess what's inside? An alien. So the alien looks like a seal with human eyes.
Dude.
Now they say, and it starts moving around on the table and
Okay.
looking at them. Now this is what they all said. All the witnesses that were there. It was the most spiritual transformation they've ever had in their whole life.
Why?
When it looked at them, it transformed them spiritually.
Okay.
See, I told you this would be interesting.
There's a second hole.
Mm-hmm.
The Spanish sheep herder
Yes.
is there with Mel and the tribe.
Yes.
The guy offers to go down. They say no. He said, okay, I'll drop a sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Sheep goes down on rope.
Mm-hmm.
Sheep has huge womb that grows on the side of it,
Mm-hmm.
looking like an ulcer, but it's not open.
Right.
They bring this thing up on the table because it's dead. And whatever was incubating in the inside of this thing looked part seal, part human,
Right. Had human eyes.
and was pulling the life force from the sheep to grow itself.
Yes.
Can I ask you something?
And then it was on the table moving around, and then it jumped into the hole.
Look, can I ask you something? Say I lowered, for instance, this is totally hypothetical, everyone that's listening. Say, for instance, I lowered this sheep in here. This is my first reasonable thought. Say there is a dimensional shift.
Mm-hmm.
Say I slip into a new area, but when I pull the sheep back through, it's actually been there for a while. And something,
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
something chose to
Yeah.
inhabit its body to incubate itself.
Mhm,
Maybe this species on the other side of this
Yes.
dimensional hole
Yeah.
is like, oh, interesting. On our planet, we breed in this, like
Yeah.
fly maggots.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you track on
I'm
this?
tracking you.
So when
yeah.
we pull it back up, we're on our normal timeline.
Mhm.
But this thing's been gone for, I don't know, 6 weeks
Mm-hmm.
while something's been incubating in it.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah, there's like no time. Yeah. But I thought it was weird that he said that. He's like, it was the most transformable. And then after that, he never really cared about, like, he never got stressed as much or never cared about money and different things like that. It was like more, it was such a spiritual moment for everyone there. Everybody that was at the tribe, the speech herder, everybody said the same thing. Like, this was like when they saw its human eyes and it looked into their eyes, it transformed them spiritually. So I thought that was interesting. And then it hops in the hole. So here's
This
the crazy
thing-
part.
They cut it out.
Yeah.
Like, You ever seen
He
Spaceballs?
walks around. Yeah.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Thing splits out of the guy's stomach, right? And then this thing hops back in the hole.
Mm-hmm. Here's the crazy part. In the meantime, at Mel's hole, the Mel's hole in Washington State,
I know.
not in Arizona.
Yes.
People are trying to find this because it's become more of it's been on coast to coast multiple times.
I'm fucking curious.
So who's the people that own the satellite data and all the stuff for like hiking apps and stuff like that?
Garmin and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
there's a name for it, like the government does that or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Where Mel's hole was reported to be at on this mountain ridge, that whole area is blacked out on the map. It's just a fuzzy green.
Hold on.
And you could look that up. Just type in Mel's hole map.
I'm going to my hiking project. Because REI uses those things.
Well, I mean, people pin Mel's hole where they think it's at, but you can zoom and look. Yeah.
All right.
There's pictures of it being all blacked out.
No. I'm like, I
am not saying that any of this is real or not real, or Mel Waters was a piece of shit, or he was totally real. I'm not saying any of that.
Where did he say he lived in Washington?
Ellensburg.
Washington, Ellensburg.
He even gave what the mountain region was. That's as far as we know about. But there's a lot of people say that there's a hole and there's.
Okay, so here's Ellensburg out here.
Right.
This land looks relatively flat, so the mountainous area is off to the west. So you're saying there's just a hole?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Manitash Ridge?
Yeah, that may be.
The hike
sounds familiar.
It says hike the summit of Manitash Ridge. That's the only thing I can see in this region. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's open this up real quick. Manitash Ridge. This looks like a place I could find a hole. This has got to be it. It's the only thing in the Ellensburg area.
Yeah, there's and everyone does it. I mean, it's like a thing to try to find this,
Yeah, look,
but they found holes. If you type in Mel's hole, everybody has like different views of it or whatever, of where it's at, what it looks like. So that's a crazy part. But here's the thing.
Okay.
And that even gets more crazy.
You're telling me it gets more insane than what we've been talking about.
No. So they decided to take ice, like dry ice, and run it down there on a line to see if it would melt and how quickly it would melt. See if it was hot down there in the hole.
Yeah, that's what my assumption was, right?
So they take it, they pull it out. The ice is not cold. It's in its solid form, not cold. So a guy takes the ice because he's like, oh, cool. He takes the ice. Oh, and he lights it.
They decide
to play around with it and light it because solid form is not cold anymore.
Yeah.
It's just sitting here in a solid form. He lights it, can't get the fire out. It makes it like a flame. Flame stays forever.
Okay.
So this guy, he's like, has a cabin. The guy that took the ice.
Hold on, it's dry ice.
It's dry ice, but he drops it in the hole and it turns into something totally different.
So it's doing its smoke because it's releasing material because it's cold, right? Changing state. And
they drop it in the hole.
And when it comes out, it's not steaming.
It's not steaming. It's just a solid.
It's a solid block, not changing phase.
Looks the same, but it's just a solid block. Yeah. But he goes to light it. And it creates a fire all the time. So he decides, let me put this in my wood stove in my cabin. So he puts it in the wood stove in his cabin, leaves it in there for like weeks on end.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he hears this big, huge noise. He runs out there.
Don't tell me something's incubating in this thing.
No.
I'm like, I can't.
And the bottom of the stove had dropped out and the ice is laying and it's pushed down into the ground a little bit. So now he's afraid. He doesn't know what to do. So
and it's still burning.
And and he goes, so it burns the cabin down. He doesn't know what to do with this, so he leaves it. He comes back, and he looks at it, and it's burrowing down a hole. So this thing just keeps making a hole bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's kind of creating a Mel's hole, if you want, or whatever type of stuff it does. So
Hold on.
that's a wild.
Just there was always this idea that if you took like when a star collapses on itself,
Right.
it gets really small. But if you were to like put it on the Earth, it just like would fall into it because of its gravity, like in its mass. You're telling me this thing just keeps dumping itself further and further into the ground?
Yeah. And it's like just creating like a perfect hole going down.
This block
Yes.
of dry ice.
Oh, Terra server. That's the thing that owns the maps and stuff like that. Yeah.
okay.
Further intrigue arose when online satellite imagery from sources like Terra server reportedly showed no trace of the hole leading me. And they had it like blocked out or whatever.
Okay.
So, yeah, just really interesting. But the last thing I want to talk about just real quick is the Red Elk tribe is there in Ellensburg.
Red elk.
And so they came out a few years ago, some tribal leaders, and said that this Mel's hole is a real thing, and that Native Americans always talked about black beams shooting out from it.
Like essentially shadow rays.
I don't know what
Like
you would
rays
call
of
them,
shadow.
but
It doesn't even make sense.
black beams. That's what they, and that of course the animals wouldn't go near it and all that stuff.
How could you make a black beam?
But I mean, how many holes are there in the world? These deep holes. There's probably a lot of these. And how many of them could be portals to other dimensions, like you talked about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether this is a piece of shit story or not, we do know. We did a whole episode on Mount Shasta with Lemurian.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people believe that the Lemurians moved in their underground.
Yeah.
So is there connections with this? Is it interdimensional?
What if it's like the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah.
If it can show up in the ocean, why can't it show up anywhere else? There's got to be a bunch of them.
Well, Edward Casey talked about, that Atlantis being in that Bermuda Triangle area in the Bahamas, and then they found all those, the bricks and building and stuff like that underneath there, right where he said they were going to be out there in the Bahamas. So
Do they know where the hole is in Arizona?
I think it's Nevada. I just read my notes.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
Nevada?
Yeah. And later, Mel claimed to discover a second summer hole in Nevada.
Well, I don't know if are the Apache in Nevada? Oh, yeah, Nevada.
Yeah. So what Indian tribe is in Nevada?
Okay. So
This is a crazy story. Like I said, you can go online and there's hours and hours of this conversation, the Art Bell's conversation.
here's my plan to determine
I'm trying to do this all from memory.
if this thing's a wormhole. I'm going to take a GoPro. And I'm going to go to Nevada. I'm going to go to the hole. And I'm going to time.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm going
right.
to time me dropping the GoPro down,
Mhm.
leaving it there, and pulling it back up, right? That'll be my time sequence.
And have the timer
And
on
then
the
have
GoPro.
the timer on the GoPro and see how it resolves time.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
And I'll put it on a fishing line 18 miles deep.
Because if you find that there's a time difference, then you know what that is.
Yeah, you know what it
It'd be
is.
simple.
And that's how I could see my sheep incubation idea.
But I don't know if that's who knows if Mel Waters, because he stopped calling Art Bell and just done. Oh, he also had Mel Waters also had an incurable cancer. And when he saw the when the alien came out, he went to the doctor again because he had 6 months to live. So he's like,
He had terminal cancer.
he had terminal cancer and it was healed. He claims. And he thinks it's because when he had that spiritual enlightenment and saw that alien. There's so much to this story. It's crazy.
I'm gonna go to Tractor Supply Co. I'm gonna get myself a trailer. I'm gonna load it up with sheep and GoPros, and I'm headed to Nevada.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people bring. There was a geologist named Jack Powell.
Yeah.
He was skeptical in the sense of it being, how could it intersect water tables or known underground formations?
Right.
How could it even be that
How does it
deep?
go through an aquifer? All that other good stuff.
But if it's interdimensional,
it wouldn't matter.
that wouldn't matter.
Like if the thing could be honestly 20 feet of normal space and then it goes interdimensional.
Yeah, or thousands of feet, and then it goes in there. But you got to think about it like you were talking about how a UAP goes into the water.
Yeah.
This hole could be the same thing. So
Yeah.
the water on the sides could just be like hanging out.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yeah, who knows? I like urban legends.
This
though.
was riveting for me. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I encourage you guys listen to the Mel Hole stuff, do some research online. It's fun.
Yeah, thank you for descending into the mystery with us, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're interested, go check out our online store.
Yes.
And
HigherDensityLiving.com.
Yeah, and I do want to thank Quality Mazda out of New Mexico. They've been a sponsor of the nonprofit for quite some time.
The very beginning.
Yeah, and I really appreciate them doing that. So please keep it up, everybody. Let's thank them for their support. They allow you to listen to us because of them. So that being said, I bid you adieu. Goodbye, everyone, and look out for the hole.